first
Okay.
presenter.
Yeah. Uh, Pipit, do you want to open first or
Oh no,
I
usually
forgot how does
by
it
the
open?
way, Donald is the founder, so if
Oh yes.
anything one should open it, I think should be Donald. But usually we don't do that. We just go straight to moderator. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, usually the moderator open it and close it.
Oh wow, Mbak
Hmm.
Imu, is that your books?
No, it's not. Well, I do have something like this at my home.
Oh,
Sort of
where are
like,
you?
but this one I'm at one of the bookstores, like
Oh,
bengkel buku.
I thought your books are so many like actual bookstores. Okay,
Bengkel buku.
I
Hmm.
see, I see.
Yeah.
Real
Anyway.
background, not, not
Hmm?
with-
Ada buku-buku murah juga loh di sini kayak siapa? Thomas Friedman dalam bahasa Indonesia sih. So cheap like less
Thomas
than
Friedman,
50,000.
World is
Thomas
flat.
Friedman yang
World is flat.
thanks for world is flat. Thanks for being
Thank you for
late.
smoking.
Thank you. Thanks for being late. or something like that.
I thought thank you for smoking.
for being late. What I'm saying.
Anyway. Yeah.
Then
Donald.
you can start.
Oh,
Usually
okay.
the moderator start.
Ya, langsung ke moderator. Baik, kawan-kawan semua, let's welcome Fajar. As usual, I think we can talk about the book and what makes the book interesting for you. Halo Pak Wido, halo Pipit, halo Donald, halo Fajar. Okay, what makes the book interesting for you and what this book about, and maybe some golden nuggets that you have learned from the book that you can share with us so we get some insights from your reading. The screen is yours.
A moment. Okay. So today I would like to share. Can I share screen, please?
Wait, sorry, I will open it. I have not. Go ahead.
All right. So the book that I want to talk about is this book. Maybe you have seen the Instagram, the Work Salary Man. Have anyone seen this Instagram channel? I mean, their style is
Crash
very.
course on
Oh yeah, crash
that?
course on
Capitalism
capitalism and money. Lesson from the world's most expensive city, which is Singapore. So basically, what I'm interested is what makes me interested because it's a comic book. So very easy to read. But
Right.
it
Where did
also
you get this book?
via the internet.
Okay.
Not legally, of course. Because if you buy it legally, it should be like 400,000. Very expensive. But overall, this topic not only very easy to read, very good pictures, and the topic is also very relatable because I think maybe it's something related to money and everybody cares about money, right? Basically, it's like a list of good ideas or good advice about a book. For example, what is it? Apa ya? Maybe accept that life is unfair, start your financial revolution, there is list of the 2020s. So basically, it's like it answered the question that many people have question. For example, how much in life is actually up to us? Is it the fault of the government? Is it the fault of our maybe parent or the boss or anyone? So basically, this one talk about actually there are some structural costs or the agency cost. So both of them have factors. Another example that I like is that someone mentioned about aduh apa ya? Actually, there is a comparison between the millennials and the old generation. The old generation say, "Oh, this generation is so lazy." I remember that when I was young, I could uh do this and then do that, and I can buy a house. But look at you, you are just scrolling through the internet, and then the youngster said that, "Oh, don't you see that the economy nowadays is very different?" And so you cannot compare that. So basically, it's like a balance point of view between those two sides. Oh yeah, this one. But my generation had it worse, nah, like that. So it's like comparison lah, yeah. Yeah, because yeah, my generation was really hard. I was working very hard until I got this house. But at the same time, the pricing house is grow very high when the salary doesn't grow that much. So it's like so basically both sides need to understand each other, not playing the blaming game instead. So basically, this is a very, very good book. And I think actually this is a really good book to add for your school, Pipit, because
Really?
this is very easy to read, and I think this will teach students about how money works, especially for youngsters, where they are sometimes gullible about how the money work. Okay, there's also what we call as the apa itu kekurangan, but there's a relative kekurangan and there's an absolute kekurangan. Absolute kekurangan is like literally miskin, but relative kekurangan is like uh, you are not so broke, but you are just worse than the others. Well, maybe let's say that you are actually quite well off, but if your neighbor next door drive Lamborghini and have like 10 more 10 sport car, then maybe you will feel that you are full poor, but not actually, not really. Okay, all in all, I think that this book, I really recommend you guys to read this. This is a very easy to read. Like I read it in one day, no effort needed, and very easy to read for teenager as well. And the lesson is also very, very relatable for many of us. 5 out of 5. Unfortunately, the downside is that the official book is very expensive, like 450 million. Sorry, 450,000. All right. Anyone?
I have a
Awesome, Fajar.
question. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, this is looks like very interesting book, and especially I think for me who is really dumb on capitalism and financial things, you know.
Hmm.
So I'm sure I will try to get this book. So any questions from the
Yes.
audience, brewers?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yes, Pipit.
Sorry, I cannot turn on camera. I will do it later.
Yes.
But first question is, what's the content of Why Some Rich People Will Never Be Happy?
Because when I think there is a picture for that, basically when the old times, when there was no internet and there was no globalization and everything, we simply compare each other with our neighbor, with our family members. But nowadays, there is an access to social media and we are comparing to the whole world, right? Like maybe, yeah, at first, having an iPhone is already well off, but you remember that, oh, there is someone else that have a very good iPhone, and you start to feel, this iPhone is not good anymore, but actually it's still good, you know. Maybe it's the factor of the social media and globalization that makes people not necessarily happier than they should be. Oh ya, ini nih ya. Oh ada nih. Apa tuh? Oh ya, relative deprivations. Yeah, like this one, yeah. There's someone who has much more, and this one, actually, both of them should be grateful, but
Mm.
they are envious. Oh, yeah, like that. Yeah, so the solution is contentment and gratitude. Yeah, okay, very good. Very easy to read, right? I just only I need to scroll, and I think you
Yes.
guys maybe get it.
Do
Anyone else?
you know much about the author? or how do they,
Oh,
come up with this?
I'm not sure, but basically the author, there are there are two founders, the author and the illustrator. So basically, they were working in advertising agency, and they start to make some comic related to money, and people really like it. And as you can see, that the topic is very uh, relatable. I pursued my passion. Here is why I end up choosing practicality, while many people suggest pursue your passion, but in reality, well, maybe that's not always be the case. I bought the most expensive house I could afford it. Now I regret it, right? And what else? Yeah, many things lah. I think there is an Instagram, the work salaryman in Instagram. So it's something that is very. I s- I recommend it a lot. Okay.
Awesome. I think I'm gonna love this reference of yours. So good. Thank you so much. Any other
I can
questions?
I can share the book to you because it's kind of hard
That
to
would be
download this.
awesome.
But maybe Donald will not, because Donald will buy the original one.
Thank you, Fajar.
All right, there is the Instagram version of this.
All right.
Yeah, not
I'm
bad, but
gonna follow that.
457. Mm.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, this one. Yeah, basically it's the same,
Hmm.
but it's, as you can see, it's very interesting,
Yeah.
very educational as well. Oh,
Heavy
yes, I think that's
subject,
all.
but
Anyone else?
delivered in a great light and fun ways. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I wish actually there is some content creator that makes similar uh, topic for Indonesia, because the author is from Singapore, so their point of view is Singaporean. So
Yeah.
if there is someone who makes similar thing as an Indonesian, that I believe that will blow up a lot, like really big.
Mm.
Mhm.
So most of the content is very Singapore point of view, you think?
Yes, mostly. Some of it actually. Basically, it's about finance and personal development.
Mhm. Okay.
Mhm. Oh, I think you
Any
are too
questions?
smart to get scammed. Oh, God, my dad just got scammed. All right. I think that's all for me. Any other question before I end my session?
Donald or Pak Wido? Okay.
Yeah, sorry I
Good
missed the
enough.
earlier discussion. There's someone coming. What is the most surprising advice that you find from the book?
Apa ya? Many people, many advice are actually good, and maybe why I am shamelessly downgrading. Like, maybe let me share screen. So many people are like pursuing the the better and the higher, and sometimes pursuing more expensive options of item is not necessarily the better options. Sometimes it's mostly advertising, marketing, and also once you are dependent on that kind of lifestyle, that lifestyle will only drag you down instead of uh, being happy. I mean, you have a really good condo or car, but if it haunts you all the time, paying the bill, maybe that's not really a good life, right? See, it's a really good book. Hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
No insights for me. Thank you so much, Fajar.
Mhm.
If your time is up to go, enjoy your whatever events you're going to attend.
Teaching as well, teaching as usual.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay. Please big round of applause for Fajar.
Photo first, maybe.
Yay. Okay, photo. Let's go. Aduh, I'm so pale loh.
Okay lah.
Ah, yeah.
Still good lah, still good. Yeah.
So who's next then? it's-
One, two. Salah. One, two. Okay, got it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks Pak Widyo, masih di jalan pun tetap.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm in public space, so it's a bit noisy and crowded.
Okay,
Okay.
no worries. Stay tuned. Okay, who's going to be the next reviewer of the book? Any books?
Donald, go first.
Donald,
After
Donald,
that,
go
me.
first. Okay, Donald, this is also, I think, interesting book, Oil, A Beginner's Guide. We are all connected with oil somewhat, yeah. So Donald, the screen is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Ingo. Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity. The book that I would like to share, the title is Oil, A Beginner's Guide, written by Václav Smil. Václav Smil writes a lot of book about energy, and this one is about oil, but this is for beginner because I know almost nothing about oil. The reason why I chose this book is because oil plays such an important role in our modern society. So I want to know a bit more about this. Usually we just enjoy the convenience of modern life, but we do not know about the factors behind it, and one of them is oil. And the book is about how important oil is, history, how it got extracted, processed, refined, and the future of oil. Some insights or things that I learned from the book is that a lot of our modern convenience depends on oil. We do not realize this. For example, like transportation, now it is stated in the book. The book was published in 2017, so maybe some numbers are already out of date. The book states that 93% of the energy for transportation comes from oil. So only 7% doesn't come from oil. So that's quite big. And we have all this ease of transportation these days. Also, we have petrochemicals like plastic, also from oil. And one thing that is not stated in this book, but stated in his other book, is the agriculture production that we have. The fertilizer actually also derived from oil. So a lot of things that we enjoy these days, also the ability to sustain more population and many conveniences actually come from oil. And I learned that it is a very complicated matter to discover, to extract, to refine, to transport oil, and also how things change. So the US used to be the biggest producer, and then overtaken by Soviet Union, and then Soviet Union dissolved and got overtaken by Saudi Arabia. But then they found a new technique called fracking, the US, and the US regained the top spot as oil producer. Again, this book is 2017. I'm not sure about today. But it also teaches about innovation. One of the things that is stated in this book to highlights the rate of innovation is that despite the forecast or the gloom prediction that the oil era is going to end, actually, the rate of global reserve compared to global production, so there is this ratio between the reserve divided with the production is actually increasing, meaning we discover more oil compared to what we can produce. So that is surprising, especially given the newer techniques like fracking that allows producers to tap previously untappable oil reserves. So because of this, the reserve was actually increasing more than the rate of production. And also another thing stated in this book is that even if we run out of oil, it will not become a catastrophe for the society because it will be gradual. So it will, and also we have this push for energy efficiency. Therefore, not only the supply side, but the demand side is also improving because cars becoming more efficient, the diesel machine, gasoline machine becoming more efficient. So the demand is also will be reduced over time. So a lot of insights from me, because again, I knew almost nothing about oil, and it gives me better appreciation about the convenience of modern life. Also the ability to go to the gas station and get gasoline easily. So it is not that easy, the distribution, transportation, but you can get it very easily by going to the gas station. So all these are things to be appreciated. Yeah, that's all from me. Thank you.
All right. Donald, why did you choose this book? Well, you mentioned earlier that you were actually like very new to this oil, but there are so many books about oil. And why did you choose this book?
Yes, thank you for the question. It's because I already read some books by the same author on energy. Actually, I did it kind of top down. So I first read the most general book, how the world really works. Then the next book I read, I don't remember exactly but it gets more and more specific. So now from the same author, the most specific one about oil is this title, Oil Beginner's Guide. So there is this sequence. I start reading the more general one and then getting more specific. And why oil? Because it is the most crucial energy source for today.
Certainly. Any other questions from others? Pipit, Pak Wido, Fajar?
Yes, what is the future of oil right now? That is it still going to be like I've heard a lot of peak oil moments. They said like this is only going down from here. This is the most we can get, only going down from here. But at the same time, this scientists mispredicted it. So there's another peak oil. Oh, as it turned out, they can even produce even more, just like using the fracking technique that you said. And probably there will be another technique that will surface in the next few years. So obviously, with also the resistance towards oil, with the advance of green technology. So what is the future of oil according to you and according to the book?
Oil is still very important for our civilization in the foreseeable future, because even if we try to transition to other energy sources, actually this is not from this book, but from the same author with different title. Newer publication also, this one is 2017, the other books is about 2020s, I don't remember the exact dates. Our civilization still depend on oil for the foreseeable future, even with the campaign to transition to renewable energy. Because, for example, airplanes, we cannot transition to electric airplane because the energy density of oil is too high to be replaced. For example, for an airplane to take off, about almost 50% of the weight is the fuel. So it is not possible to be replaced with other alternative in the foreseeable future. There is no technology for that yet. So we still depend. And even for renewable energy like wind turbines, we have the wind energy. Actually, all the turbines and all the infrastructure still use oil. We need to transport the turbines. We need to construct the plastics. All this actually still use oil indirectly. So even if it is labeled as renewable energy, it's still oil behind the scene. So there is no possibility of replacing oil in the near future. The good news is, according to the book, we haven't reached peak oil yet. Again, this book was written in 2017, but I guess it's still the case today. Because new reserve, conventional reserve, the author differentiates two types of reserve, conventional and non-conventional. conventional reserve are still discovered. Relatively recent ones is in the North Sea, in the Norwegian water, conventional reserve. But even more promising is the non-conventional reserve by using new techniques like fracking. Because of all this, the author stated that the ratio between global reserve compared to global protection is actually increasing, meaning we find more reserve than we can produce. It's like me, I buy more books than I can read. So it's good news because we actually discover more oil than what we can produce and consume so far.
So we are okay on that, yeah.
Can
But
I
does
have
it?
a follow-up question? Sorry.
Oh yes, sure, Pipit. Go ahead.
Now that you said the supply is almost like more than the demand, of course, right? I mean, they keep finding new resources, I mean, new wells and things like that. So don't you think economically it will diminish the power of oil then, because it's not as rare anymore like in the past? Is it still going to be a powerful source? Because now that there's abundance of it, more than we can even utilize.
Yeah, I think it happened in the past. So according to the book, between 1950 to 1970, there was cheap oil between 1950 to 1970. Oil was abundant because there was the discovery of supergiant oil fields, especially in the Middle East. So cheap oil was abundant until OPEC raised the price very highly in the 1970s, and that drove the push for energy efficiency and discovery for new oil sources. So will oil reduce its role in the future because of the abundance? I don't think so, and it is not stated as well like that in this book, because the producer will produce just small amount of this. They will try to control the price. They will not increase the production. Also, the rate of discovery depends on oil price. When oil price drops, then the exploration will also be reduced because the companies do not have the incentive to find something new. So the discovery will be reduced. Actually, that happened between 1985 to 2005. So for 20 years span, the discovery was low because oil price was low. And then the oil price increased in 2005 and the exploration increased again. So this is a balancing between supply and demand. When it seems like there is the possibility of more cheap oil, then the exploration will shrink and it will regain the balance. So I think the role of oil will stay the same because of this balancing between finding new reserve and the price of oil, they are balancing each other.
Great, thanks, Donald. So your faith restored in oil, Pipit?
Yes.
Okay, because even the green and renewable energy will still depend on oil, yeah? Somewhat.
Unfortunately, unless in the space exploration they can find substance that is more powerful than oil, like what they
Yeah.
found on the moon, for example. They said, or even people try to utilize nuclear,
Mm.
for peace. That would be more powerful than oil. But there's probably a lot of technical difficulties, like disposing the waste, the toxic waste of nuclear, and also the battery, things like that.
Not
But
to
yeah,
mention the people, yeah?
the people
mean-
also have generational trauma to the mention of nuclear.
Yeah. And our behavior towards like maintenance and stuff like that, right? Okay,
I want to comment on that briefly.
yes, please.
Yeah, so
Donald.
actually the holy grail of energy is using fusion nuclear. Currently, we only have fission. Fission is the nuclear with all this danger and waste. But if we can utilize fusion nuclear, that will be clean energy and super abundant because we can use seawater for the source. Unfortunately, technically, it's very, very, very difficult. So it is estimated that even in 50 years' time, maybe we still cannot use fusion energy commercially. So it's very difficult technically, but that is the holy grail of energy.
Interesting. Thank you, Donald. Any, hi, Mita. Mita is here. Maybe you catch some of the discussion points you want to add. Any questions for Donald? Mita? Or Fajar? No. Okay. Well, in that case, big round of applause for Donald. At least I know a little bit more about oil than what I have known so far, even though I worked for that kind of, industry. Anyway, Pipit, it's now your time to talk about war in Iraq. I think it's all somewhat connected with what Donald mentioned earlier on the book review. The the screen is yours.
Yes, actually, your company is mentioned here. Thai movement. So, okay. So actually, I teach international relations in SIS. We always talk about the war in Iraq because until now, it's still an active research field in international relations. Basically, a lot of people still cannot believe how come it happened, especially the second one, that the after the 9/11, basically. That's why it's still an active research field until now. It's still being discussed as case studies in all IR textbooks and things like that. But I never actually read the chronological chain of reactions of the war in Iraq before, other than what's written in the textbook. So I think this is a good, what is it called? It's an interesting experience reading this book. Although this is obviously only 50 pages, but I really like this series, Witness to History, because I often find interesting primary sources from this series. Yeah, the diary of Saddam Hussein, even, or the journalists who write different journal than what they actually wrote in the paper, for example. So the journalist has two versions of facts here. The one they kept to themselves, they usually write it in their own diary, or the one they actually published in newspapers, things like that. So that's what I like about this series. That was it. And then what I found interesting a lot, yeah. So obviously people probably has been wondering what happened to the Middle East. There has never been a week when there is a peace, I would say. The last, well, it's an exaggeration, but it's like one war over bumper to bumper. So this is part of my step, try to understand that. So what did I learn? Yeah, I learned that, so Saddam Hussein actually initially, when he became one of the generals in the rebellion, yeah. So basically rebellion against the puppet state that was set up by the UK government. So the UK government took over Iraq from the Ottoman, right? So Iraq used to be part of the Ottoman Empire, but after Ottoman Empire dissolved itself after World War I, basically the one who ruled Iraq was actually the British forces. but they did it under disguise of this king they installed there. So basically, this king become the puppet king of this kingdom of Iraq. And then there were a rebellion to topple this king, right? And then one of the generals of the rebellions was actually Saddam Hussein. And he rose to power and things like that. So when the book described how Saddam Hussein led the country in the beginning, it was very similar to the way I think Suharto did it as well. So it's very similar. So although he did, except for nationalizing oil company, that one is different. Yeah. So what he did was nationalizing oil companies. It used to be, what is it called? Controlled by British companies, right? So after Saddam Hussein became the president, he nationalized the oil companies. He also squandered Muslim fundamentalism, basically. And then he introduced rights to women and started education. It's very like Bapak Pembangunan, same as in Indonesia, Suharto era. But he totally squandered all dissents. So everyone must agree with him. Basically same, very classic dictator move here. And then that time. So I think the one that makes me what I think is interesting is that his decision to attack Iran, basically. Decision to attack Iran. Actually, the one who thought Iran was actually a threat was actually the West and Saudi Arabia, because what happened in Iran that time was the Islamic Revolution. You know, what's the name? Khomeini, right? The Islamic Revolution, the Shia government was installed. Then Saddam Hussein, as the neighbor, felt that if I don't do anything about it, 60% of my population is actually Shia Islam that time. So he was afraid that the Shia Muslim would want to break away from Iraq, basically, or do the same revolution, while Saddam was a Sunni Muslim. So out of fear that the same thing would happen to Iraq, so he decided to wage a war against Iran, right? So then he was the only one doing that with the backup of the Saudi Arabia and the surrounding countries and the United States. All the West countries basically helped him. But we just give you the money, you do it yourself, something like that, right? So 8 years fighting a war against Iran resulted in a stalemate. And this is something that I need to look into further, because it's amazing how Iran actually could block Iraq's attacks, even though Iraq was actually supported by many different countries. Iran was alone that time. So I would look further into this, how come Iran could withstand all of these attacks. And in the end, Iraq was lost the war, right? And then ended up with a huge amount of debt, basically, after the Gulf War, after the war against Iran. So then he owed Iraq owed a lot of money from Kuwait and Saudi Arabia, basically. But then he said, can you guys cancel the debt, please? Saddam Hussein said that to Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. Can you guys forgive my debt? Because I'm doing this war for you. You know, not for Iraq. And then, but then unfortunately, Saudi Arabia and Kuwait say no. No, you still have to pay. And that prompted Saddam's decision to invade Kuwait, which was a totally wrong move, because he thought international community would just criticize it but would not do anything. As it turned out, they actually helped Kuwait, and then the Gulf War 1991 happened under Bush administration, right? So let's just take that out of the way. However, he still kept his regime only because Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and the surrounding countries persuaded United States and the allies to let Saddam just be in power, because they did not want this to start a domino effect. They're afraid like, oh, if there's one Arab government toppled down by the West, then who will be next? Something like that, right? So that's somehow like almost like what is it? Like a perasaan buruk, yeah. Like you have a bad omen about this, that it might happen to other countries in the surrounding area. So Saddam Hussein was considered lucky that time because basically he got to keep his power, right? Then after 9/11, now this is 9/11 was totally an unfortunate event, but this is what I learned about this. After we went through a big problem or a shocking situation such as 9/11, it will cloud our judgment, basically. So normally we would probably say no to go to unjustified war, but because of this terror that probably these people still feel strongly, so the President Bush Jr. that time decided to attack Iraq, basically. But it was very weird because all of this was led by neoconservatives, right? By Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld. They already started to lobby to attack Iraq since 1994, basically. They tried to lobby President Bill Clinton to do it, but Bill Clinton somehow shrugged it off. And unfortunately, they got really good position during Bush Jr. as the what is it called? This defense, yeah, Ministry of Defense, Secretary of Defense, and also the Vice President. So they could convince Bush Jr. that time. Actually, Bush Jr. wasn't even interested. He was torn between the neoconservatives and Colin Powell, basically. So the conscience of Bush Jr. all this time, that time, was actually Colin Powell, who said that, oh, we should not do this, we should not do this. But after 9/11, Bush Jr. decided to side with the neoconservatives, so he decided to attack Iraq. It was amazing in a way that he was able to shift the perception of American people from seeing that the #1 US enemy was supposed to be Osama bin Laden that time. But in the matter of a few months, it actually shifted to Saddam Hussein without any clear reasons, basically. And the book here talk about the joint intelligence report that as a base to attack, and it was very vague, yeah. So they said, oh, there's a weapon of mass destruction, things like that. But then the UN Commission went there to inspect, right? But they did not find it, basically. Or they were given time, but they could not find the evidence from this joint intelligence committee finding, basically. But then obviously that did not stop them. So even though United Nations that time said no to this invasion, they still did it, basically, evidently, right? Now, what is interesting is that after the war, right after the war, obviously Iraq was left in shambles, right? The first thing that happened was Halliburton, Mbak Imung's previous company, was given was given the contract to actually rebuild Iraq, including managing the oil there. And then it's just what a coincidence, because Dick Cheney, the vice president of Bush Jr., was one of the what is it called? You know, the commissaries of this Halliburton. And you know what's crazy? Because this is supposed to be open market, right? America is very open market. But that time, companies from France, Germany, who else? Yeah, were several countries who were interested to bid for the same contract. They were not allowed to join the bidding, basically, under the pretext that because your country did not support our country in attacking Iraq. So the companies under your countries are not allowed to bid, basically. So it was very expensive contract awarded to Halliburton. There was a French and a German company who was willing to do the job for a lot less, but they could not join the bidding, basically. So that's what I found very interesting, how it's supposed to be a market economy, but they were not willing to, give it away. So, and the last one is the error that happened is lack of planning about what happened after the war. So basically, when UK and US decided to attack Iraq, they didn't think this through. So what happened after the war? What is the plan? So they didn't know that the war would end very quickly. So now what, basically? So that now what is the one that made Iraq was not able to stand its ground, basically. So there's gave rise to fundamentalism, and there's a conflict between ethnic groups, Kurdistan, and then, the Arabs, and also between religious factions, Shia and Sunni. There's also conflict between political parties, the ex-Saddam loyalists, and, it's just like the country became a total chaos, basically, because a lack of planning of what to do next after Saddam was removed. And this is the worst, because the US and UK refused the UN to oversee the post-war phase, basically. The post-war stage, actually the UN offered to the United States and UK to let us help you oversee the situation because Iraq will disintegrate, right? But US and UK actually refused them to get involved because no, this is our war. You did not support us to go to this war. That's why we'll take it from here, basically. So that even make things worse because in other areas such as Kosovo, for example, right? So after the conflict ended, they give time for UN to actually manage the area for several years, so it will not disintegrate. But it did not happen in Iraq. UK and US insisted they could do it themselves. But what happened is the opposite, yeah. Until now, Iraq has not been stabilized. Okay, so that is what I can share about. Sorry,
Great
it's a long one.
explanation of the book. Wow. I was just wondering, the author's point of view, is it like, does he has a tendency to, to be on the side of Iraq or on the side of the US and UK?
I sense that the book somehow disagree with the invasion for the second one. The degree of arguments that came up is actually criticizing the invasion to Iraq. Even published the personal letter of this leader of House of Commons in UK who resigned, basically. So a lot of the primary sources that were shown here actually against the war rather than support the war. So from that quantity of the primary sources, I think the writer did not support the war.
Thanks, Vipit. Any questions from Donald, Fajar, or Mita?
Yes, I have a question. I checked in Wikipedia. Saddam Hussein rose to power at the age of 42. Now, I wonder what made him able to take power at such a young age, only 42 years old.
Yes, so he was actually the Secretary General. There's a photo of him. He was quite young. Look here. See? Yeah. So he was actually just a secondary officer he didn't rose to prominent very quickly. So initially he was only 31 years old as a deputy secretary general. When he somehow helped the Arab Nationalist Ba'ath Party to topple the government. He was only 31 that time. But for some reasons, the actual leader of the coup, and his name was Buya, there was another person who is supposed to be his boss, but then for some reasons was squandered by Saddam himself. Like, let me see. Wait. Okay, this one. Oh, here's the thing. Okay, so the president was supposed to be Ahmad al-Bakr. Okay, so this is Saddam Hussein's boss, basically. Saddam Hussein was only the head of the police under Ahmad al-Bakr. However, he used his power as the police to consolidate the power, basically. So it's almost like a coup within a coup. Yeah. So then he somehow toppled this president of Ahmad al-Bakr and never be heard from after that. So he became the president. So yes, he started as the head of the security of the country. Head of the security police, basically. So it was a coup inside a coup.
Thanks, Vipit. Donald, do you want to respond to that, or you have any following question?
No, just I wonder about that. That sounds like the history of the Middle East for thousands of years. So someone within the kingdom rose up to take power of some so similar, but in the modern context.
Mhm.
Like now in Saudi Arabia, right?
Yeah. The thing I've been it's been haunting my mind about, but this war is the heritage of all this old civilization that is not only belongs to Iraq but also belongs to the world, to us. Any other information in that book?
I wonder about it. I read the same book about Afghanistan a few months ago, and the same questions pop up to me many times. Like, seriously, it was really the last choice. There's no way they could discuss this. I mean, it was so crazy. Sometimes I don't. Several times I saw it was a very small conflict, like a small conflict. I can imagine maybe they can negotiate or something, right? But they did not go the negotiation route. Basically, they're just yes or war, something like that. So even the debt restriction, the debt cancellation request from Saddam Hussein, there could have been a middle way, right? Like, you don't probably not canceling the whole thing, but maybe like 50% or whatever. But then it was totally outright no. So it was very, what is it? Yeah, very kaku. I think the culture do not leave room for negotiation. I think it's my way or highway, something like that. So yeah, I keep come across a lot of conflicts that, in my opinion, could have been solved with negotiations. Yeah, including the conflict between Kurdistan and the majority, the Shia and the Sunni, the different political parties. It's just too easy to declare war, in my opinion.
Perhaps it's in the DNA. I don't know. But I think it'll be interesting to find out about this, whether, that kind of areas and the people it's part of their, I don't know, maybe excitement in life to go to war and to fight. I'm not sure. But if there's any book about that, I would love to to read it.
I have one more book about Middle East, but I haven't finished it.
Just a
When you
guess,
finish
maybe
there.
just a
Mhm.
guess, maybe nobody wants to look weak because they define concession as weakness, maybe. Actually, in negotiation, concession is not weakness, it is part of strategy, but maybe some part of the world see that concession itself in any form is a weakness, maybe is a case.
I think excessive importance on self-honor, I would say. I think they have an unhealthy dose of honor, you get what I mean? It's like, what is it? Yeah, it become a justification to do anything, like, like dihina, and then if you are insulted, and then the punishment for that, you kill the person who insult you. That's like an excessive importance on honor. Yeah, I think. Yeah, or something. Other people, if they get insulted, yes, they are offended, but they don't go out of their way to actually kill the person who insulted them, right? But for some reason, this area will take it very seriously to the point that justify killing.
Honor killing, even towards their own, like their own blood, their family members and stuff like that. Aside from the war things. So yeah, I've been wondering about that kind of stuff. But anyway, so that was really a good explanation. Thank you so much, Pipit. Any other, maybe Mita, you have question for Pipit? Everything Guide to Middle East. Nice.
Yes, I read like maybe 10 pages of this.
Oh,
Okay.
that's nice. Everything Guide to the Middle East. Okay. Repeat. I think it's interesting that you always have a fresh point of view regarding the international relations and helping us to understand what's going on right now. And probably my comment or questions are regarding my book, because the basic concept of conscious leaders, the most important key of conscious leaders, they have high integrity. So in your case, I still see there is a part of American leaders, the Iraqi leaders, and some people in between. So do you think these leaders, they're all conscious leaders who are servant leaders, or what are they in your definition?
It's really hard because I really think, for example, Bush Jr., I don't think he was a mean person. He was taken advantage of, for example. So I think the one who was actually mean as those who took advantage of his position, and also his disposition, we call it, a certain tendency. So yeah, integrity is obviously an important quality even as a human being. It's really hard, I guess. Integrity is the ability to make a good decision even when no one is watching, right? Is that hard? Even for us? When no one is watching, so
It
you don't
is.
have to think
Yeah.
about consequence. You don't have to think about what other people would think,
But conscience is what drive us if we want to keep our integrity. Is that the right word? Conscientiousness or something
Yes,
like that?
conscience, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would like to think I have conscience,
of
but
course.
no one has offered me 5 billion rupiah to do something
Yet.
for me. So I don't know to what extent. I feel like I'm probably conscientious. That's the adjective, but until it's proven, we don't know.
Yeah, true.
You said
I-
something about Bush Jr. being tricked or
Persuaded.
okay,
Yeah.
being persuaded. The question is, a conscious leader, when he has an integrity, when he is faced with difficult choice like that, if he had an integrity, he would still follow his conscience and he would not have attacked Iraq.
Mm.
So in this case, yeah, because usually when I did an interview for employees in BUMN, when it regards the integrity, my question would be, could you please explain a situation when you had to do the things that you know is wrong, but your organization and your boss asked you to do it? Just explain when this happened,
Yeah,
when, where, and what did you do? Did you follow the order or did you not? So Bush still followed the persuasion, even though I think his conscience know that it is wrong. So he's not a good leader. He's not
yeah.
a
Kak,
conscious
actually,
leader.
I mentioned it earlier. What tragedy does to someone. So for several years, Bush actually resisted the persuasion from the neoconservatives. So he was really torn in the middle. The book actually mentioned between, even in his own government, there were two factions. Those who are very hawkish, you know, go to war, go to war, go to war, or those who are pacifists, right? So he was really in the middle. The one that changed him is actually the 9/11 WTC. So that was the turning point. So I think that's my take on this is the situation when we're traumatized, shocked, or angry, or obviously, right? He was angry, he was humiliated because it happened under his administration. All of these are a very fragile mental state that you're not being yourself, basically. So normally he would say no, but this time suddenly he said yes to invading Iraq. Even doing such a, I'm sorry, yeah, stupid invasion because in a way, even try to sway the public to think that actually America's #1 enemy, actually Saddam Hussein, was not even Osama bin Laden. So while the one who actually had connection with 9/11 was actually Osama bin Laden. Actually, Saddam Hussein did a lot to squander the Islamist fundamentalism in his own country. So he was not the right person to after. So it was even amazing how until now, international relations scholars are still wondering how come even Hillary Clinton voted yes for invading Iraq. Hillary Clinton, when she was a congresswoman, she voted yes to invade Iraq. And because of that, a lot of people were very disappointed, including Michael Moore, who was her #1 supporter, probably, as written in his book, right? But he promised himself, I would never vote for Hillary because of this. So it was a very extraordinary process, in my opinion.
Excellent argument, Pipit. Thank you so much. Great insights. And also to Mita. Okay, any other questions?
I just want to make a point. I think Mbak Imung regarding the Republicans, the ones that put pressure on Bush, I think it relates to what Donald had mentioned. These Republicans, they're about the military-industrial complex. And most of them are also related, the Republican families, they are rich. Some of them are rich because of the oil. So we know that Iraq has a lot of oil. We know Syria has a lot of oil. We know many countries in the world that are in conflict, they are oil producers. But my question is, why do the states do that? Is that because, I mean, what's the advantage of burning up all the oils in Iraq? They don't get anything. If they don't burn the oil in Iraq, they could use it, utilize that. So how is it the benefit or making
What do you
America?
mean burning oil gas?
When Bush attacked Iraq, all the oil in Iraq ran out because they burnt all the oil pipelines. It
No.
didn't. Oh, that's what I heard.
No.
So
So
what happened?
no, they totally took control of the oil reserve of Iraq. Actually, one time they boasted that they took control of the 10% of the oil reserve of the world after they took over Iraq. Like I even mentioned one of the companies who got the contract was actually Halliburton. So it's not true that they burn the oil. Maybe it was like tokenism. Looks like, oh, I burn like 1 liter here, but I take 100. So I don't think they burn the oil.
So
Oh,
now I
actually,
see the
it's not all-
connection. Yeah.
It's not only exclusive to Republican Party, because a lot of the Democrat parties have business in oil, including Joe Biden's son. If you have heard, right? That's why Joe Biden also doesn't mind about going to war and obviously support Israel with this thingy. His family is tied to oil companies too.
And yet they have calculated everything. I know, I think, somewhat on the paper before they started the war, they already know they're gonna get something out of it. Because if they know they're not gonna get anything, they won't do stupid things. But somewhat, I think whether it's burning the oil or whether it's a political statement or whatnot, they will get something out of it. Or they have already. Or the show of power, for example, it's part of that, right? But anyway, thank you so much. That was really good. Thank you, Mita and Pipi. Now, the last one, I'm going to save the last for, well, not the last, your book for later, yeah, Mita. And before that, let's take a deep breath and let's talk about breathing. Is that all right with you? Yeah? Okay. In that case, I will share this book. I don't know if I have shared this earlier before. Have I? Not yet.
Yang breathing through nose, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, actually, the one I shared with you before was about, I think, James Nestor's book, right? Breathing, or the other one, Oxygen Advantage. But this one is similar to that. Only different people, different sort of like discipline, but somewhat it's all connected by Buteyko principle. And this book by Dr. Arthur Rakimov is actually an old book. Somewhat this book is very interesting to me because it has full of all the references. And the books is called Breathing Slower and Less, the Greatest Health Discovery Ever. I'll show you what it looks like. This, can you see this? I guess not, huh? I'll show it later.
Closer, Kak.
Pardon?
Closer.
Closer. Still,
Oh
I
yeah, I
guess.
cannot. Yeah.
Can you see it now?
Yeah, I see two people, one in
Yes.
on a chair, the other standing.
Actually, this book looks like, not too serious book. And anyone to just see it just like that, the cover, they will think this book is nothing. But once you open it, actually for me, it was a really good one. Why? Because it has all the references that to convince people who don't believe in this method. I will start with this. This is my own quote, yeah. Breathing is an underrated, luxurious activity. A lot of us, because we are breathing, we don't find it luxurious. But actually, it becomes luxurious when you know you are in need of your breathing. You are in need of your oxygen. Or if you get sick and you're gonna spend a lot of money, a lot of opportunities gone, or a lot of, enjoyment in life gone, a great quality of life gone, then you understand that breathing is actually an underrated, luxurious activity. Okay. This guy is actually British Air Force personnel. no, sorry, not British Air, but this one, breath holding time is done by British Air Force personnel. They do the test on pilots. Yeah. And it started in the 50s, but they find out that actually the breath holding time is an indication of your health. If you have your breath holding time very low, for example, your breath holding time is like 5 seconds. That means you are really sick. But if you have it like 1 minute or 60 seconds, and that's actually very good. Have you ever tried that, Donald, Pipit, or?
No, not yet.
I saw
Not
it in Instagram. There's an exercise for that.
Okay,
You
so
hold
can
your breath when the line reach from here until that one. If you cannot reach till the end, something wrong with your health gitu.
yeah, that's the simple way to understand to what extent your breath holding time, whether it's good or not. Okay. This is the chapter in the book. Yeah. The first one is CP or counterpause. This is your oxygenation index. A lot of us don't know what is the oxygenation. Actually, it's a simply said, it's the process where your oxygen is being processed throughout your body or throughout all the cells by using the CO2 as well. And there's also a process called, not the process, a substance called nitric oxide that comes that as a result of this sort of like oxygenation through humming. So if you hum, it makes your body feel calm down, and they will produce nitric oxide. And this nitric oxide is helping you with the oxygenation. Simply said, a lot of us still think that when you do breathing, you just need a lot of oxygen. Do you believe in that? Because that's what I believed before. Yeah. Donald?
I'm not sure needing a lot of oxygen because I think it's
Yeah.
constant. It's constant amount of oxygen.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of us think that when we inhale a lot more oxygen, that means the more is the better. Do you believe in that?
No.
No. Okay, that's
Instinctively,
good.
I would believe that.
Instinctively, right? But Donald, if you say no, that means you are educated with that or what?
I just think that the breath automatically adjusts to the needs of the body. So the supply doesn't matter because it will match the demand. The demand is this amount, so more or less supply doesn't matter.
Okay, yeah.
Kak
I
Emu, I
found
have
that-
a different take on that from the book Lifespan.
Okay.
It says if we somehow memanjakan our body, it will be bad basically. That's why I don't know, Donald, we read the book together, right? In previous years ago. So we have to keep our body, if possible, in the state of not emergency, tapi not too comfortable basically. To be able to activate our super what gene. Don't know that so I think if we deprive our body in something like maybe food with through fasting, or we somehow avoid comfort by going to exercise, we somehow deprive our body of something, right? It will make our body become healthier.
Yeah. Well, that's what I believe too. In this case, the more oxygen is actually not the better. The less oxygen is the better. I was amazed by this statement, but this book has a lot of practical tips for you to take. So it makes sense, yeah, because it's based on their research. And this guy Artur Rakimov is a Russian guy. Not that Russian guy is better than, but they are very, very, how to say this, diligent when they are into something. So anyway, go to the chapter. The chapter has the breathing and oxygenation and breathing in relation to modern diseases, breathing and quality of life, and why do we breathe so too heavily? The Buteco trials and the pilot studies that I mentioned earlier. And then the question and answers about Buteco method and breathing retraining. So this is the guy, the author, PhD in math and physics from Moscow University. I think his life or his quality of life is good in a way that he get all this, left brain and right brains in balance, yeah, because he learned classical piano and becomes a player of classical piano, and he's also coach of world elite athletes from Russia and Finnish. But he's not only doing that, he's not only saying that or did some research about that, but he also walked the talk. He ran country skiing, and total distance is like 100,000 kilometers. It's just like 2.5 loops around the world. This is not the world, around the world. I mean, he knows what he's talking about. That's what I like about this book. And yet the book looks like so easy to read, with all even the pictures in there, the drawings. It looks like the book for teenagers, yeah. So the basic of this book is Discipline of Buteco Style. It was published in 2007 first, and it only had 145 pages book. And what I like about this book is it has some rich content. It combines the how-to with scientific reasons, with supporting evidence, and with references. And it's relevant to my need, and I think somewhat relevant to everyone's needs, because breathing is everyone's business, yeah. Even though it's published in 2007, but still contextual to what our needs, and even more contextual now with the, with the pandemics and everything. And it also has some reference on each chapter. So if you want to know about one chapter, then we can go further by checking all the references. Same way with appendix to help deeper understanding. So the last one, the golden nuggets for me, and I hope you can also get for you. I do have the book in ebook in lithium, but if I have the PDF, and I'll share it with all of you, maybe it can be a good conversation, because if I don't have anyone to converse about this. The golden nuggets for me is that we always have to breathe through nasal. No open mouth at all when we breathe, unless when we talk or when we eat, then we can use our mouth, yeah. Because by doing that, we get 20% more oxygen. However, if you want to be a good breather, actually the less oxygen is the better. And that can be reached by practicing or exercising the BOLT, or the body of level of oxygen test. So you do the test by holding your breath and see how much time you can hold the breath easily, yeah. So it produced nitric oxide. I mentioned it earlier because it's useful for dilation of blood vessels, and this is the oxygenation process. And if you breathe through the mouth, you get all the toxic into the body organs, because there's no saringan, yeah, no apa namanya, no process if we take it through the mouth. And the CO2 and O2 is actually working hand in hand. And the CO2 is more fundamental living matter than the oxygen itself. And I learned when I was younger, I learned from the school that oxygen is very important and CO2 is actually toxic, but it's not. Yeah. So the breath holding, this one they call it control pause, CP. If your control pause holding is 40 to 60 seconds, congratulations, that means you are very healthy because it produces necessary CO2 in the right amount. It engage metabolism of protein, fats, and carbohydrates, immune system, and all the things that you can read here. And CO2 is actually relaxant of smooth muscle. If you want to have your muscle to be smooth, then we have to have the enough numbers or enough amount of CO2. And this is what the golden nuggets that I get, yeah. The CO2 dilate is actually dilator of blood vessel. It has strong calming effects. Something that other people usually use tranquilizer to get calm. We don't need that. We just get our CO2, get our nitric oxide, and that can only be done. And that can be done only by these little things that you call humming. So if you hum, you produce this. Yeah. Sorry, the last one is to breathe slow and less. The more breathing means the less oxygen on the tissue. Over breathing is supposed to be discouraged. If you do that once in a blue moon, that's fine. For example, if you have hyperventilated because you're running, yeah, you're hyperventilating. However, you need to manage that. Otherwise, you see a lot of like sportsmen or dignitaries who passed away at young age because of their inability to manage this breathing. And when you breathe slow and less, it is actually better because you get less than 6 liters per minute. And reading this, it says that if you get 1 or 2 liters per minute, that means you are very healthy. And you still feel good, that means you're healthy. That's what I get from this book. And if you want to start breathing slow and less, start with these 3 things. First, make sure you always have your mouth closed. Use your nose. And the second one is try not to have like noises in your breathing. If you breathe and it's still hard or heavy, that means something is wrong with your body, and take care of it first. And the third one, if you can, try to practice the humming, because with humming, you get your calm. And if you want, you can also try to practice holding your breath, but only when you hold it, and you release it only when it's comfortable to release. Don't hold it until you find you're struggling to find some oxygens. I think that's about it from this book. Now, my role is the moderator again. If you have any questions, please.
Yes, Kak. Now I know maybe it's obvious. I don't know. Let's see. The presence of carbon dioxide is only
Yeah.
bad if it's within our body, right? But what if it's like outside our body? In terms of what if we live in a polluted area with full of CO2, for example? Is that gonna make us also healthier using the same logic, or in what situation CO2 is actually advantageous for us?
Okay, well, I may have explained it in the wrong way. It doesn't mean that a lot of CO2 is healthier. The more CO2 is healthier. It's not like that. But what I have learned in the school is that CO2 is dangerous. CO2 is not good for you. Well, actually, in fact, CO2 is good if you combine it with the oxygen. So it's not only oxygen that you need in your body, but that's why holding your breath is important, because you need to get a good or right amount of CO2 to help dilate these blood vessels. I hope that answer.
So when they're hand in hand, then that would be good.
Yes, when they're hand in hand. But if it's outside and there's so many of them, of course, it's not good because there's no oxygen. If we have enough oxygen, enough, that's why, well, if you want to know how healthy you are, try to do some breathing. And if your breathing in and out is more than 15, that means it's a red alert. It's a red alert for you to take care of your breathing process. The healthy is the less.
More than 15 what, Mbak Imo?
More than 15 breathing in a minute. So if you do like inhale, hold for a few seconds and exhale, and that's count for 1 minute. And if it's more than 15, that means like this. You take deep in you take a breath in and out too often, and that can cause you hyperventilating. Hyperventilating will make you breathing very shallow in your chest only, like this. Yeah, but if you do some deep breathing, but it's very slow and very low, I mean, very slow and very smooth, that means you are good. The less is the better. I'm still practicing. Sometimes I get to 6, sometimes I get to 10. Most of the time I get to 12. But more than 15, yeah. And there's one more, I find it interesting. Actually, if you don't do good breathing, everything else in what you do affects the result. For example, the way you process information, the way you make a decision, the way you do things, the way you process everything, like even your happiness. So that's how important breathing is, in my opinion. Any other question?
Yes, I have a question.
Yeah.
Does exercise help us have better breathing? Exercise, working out, will that help us in breathing better?
You mean breathing exercise or physical exercise?
Physical exercise. So I think I read somewhere that when we exercise, we have this higher metabolism. So we will breathe better. Maybe I don't remember the exact terms, but indirectly it helps us to breathe better. Is that correct or not?
Yes, that's true that like physical exercise is good for you, to your health, to also produce more oxygen. However, if you do the breathing incorrectly, it will not gonna give you the best. For example, nowadays, I think based on this, a lot of new research find out that many sportsmen get their breathing process wrong. So with this, their performance is actually less than if they do it in the right way. For example, not the right way is when they run or when they do some warm up, they have their mouth open. You know, like this. The hyperventilating is only good if you want to defend yourself on something. But if you do the exercise for too long in doing that way, that means you're just like having your vehicle and you do the gas and brake, gas and brake all the time. I hope that answered.
Yes.
It's-
Thank you.
Please forgive all the noises here. It's raining so hard.
We cannot hear
Itu-
anything, Kak.
Yeah?
Not noisy kok. We cannot hear.
Oh, no, see. Okay, all right. Anything else? If not, then we go to Mita. Yeah, Mita, with your conscious leader, the question is why do you choose? Well, of course, you already informed this to us earlier about your book. Maybe you can talk about what's the most interesting things about this book or the last chapter.
Okay, Mbak Imu. I thought Fajar was next. Okay, maybe I missed Fajar. I'm sorry. So I would like to thank you because I remember when I just started writing this book, I tested with the book Brewers mates to get feedback. And I remember Pipit asked me, Mbak Mita, what is consciousness? And honestly, now after that question was asked, I'm beginning to understand what consciousness means, not 100%, but I think the point is that writing this book has made me learn more about consciousness, about leadership, about conscious leaders, and about the things that matter for me, especially in regards to my work life, and also my personal life. So that's why this book is important. And if you observe what has been going on during our discussions, I think even when it comes to Mbak Imung, breathing is an important part of being a leader, which is pause. When we focus on our breathing and we realize that we breathe too fast, that means we need to pause, we need to stop, sit still, and control our breathing. So there is one key character of conscious leader, that is pause. Something that many people, when we teach leadership, we don't teach about pausing. When we talk about leadership, we always talk about productivity, about efficiency, but we never say work less, take a break more, sleep more, pause, breathe slowly, slow living, high quality living, things like that. So that's one thing that I think today's discussion, everybody talked about a character that is relatable to a conscious leader. I think that's my answer, Mbak Imo.
All right. Yeah. So, any questions about Mita's book?
Yes, I have a
it
question,
will
Kak.
be- Yeah, go ahead.
So is the book focusing on how we achieve that quality, or is there also aspect about what system needs to be built so we can produce people with a conscience? So when they become leaders, whoever that is, the person can be trustable.
That's a very good question. The book is more about the questions in the beginning is like, why is there pandemic? Why do we have so many wars? Why do we have many people get laid off? Like when I just started taking French lesson, I was invited to attend French tech seminar, and I just realized there was this new community called Kumpul, and the members are mostly the small medium enterprises consisting of 2,000 people. And I go, wow, they are new members. So these new small medium enterprises members, they became members because of the pandemic. And I go, this doesn't make sense. How could 2,000 people get laid off during the pandemic and they have to force themselves to become entrepreneurs in such a very short time without anybody mentoring them in the office, without anything preparing? And that raised the question, what is wrong with our work system? And that's why I started writing about this book. So, and then I gave some the characters and the theories about conscious leaders, starting from Stephen Covey, and also the one that I just learned recently is from this book, Conscious Capitalism. And one of the intelligence that I just learned that many people don't teach in leadership school and in management school is called the system intelligence. The system intelligence is actually a spiritual intelligence when one person sees the interconnectedness of anything. So a conscious leader is a person who has this high system intelligence. So this person can know before a company makes a decision or a country makes a decision, the danger and the negative consequences of that decision. And this is something that I just found out about the conscious capitalism. And I think uh, this kind of interconnectedness was talked about on my first book, The Miracles in You, that actually that we all one indivisible being. So when we bomb a country, we invade another country, actually we are hurting ourselves. This concept is not making sense to current leaders, especially the political leaders. They see when they attack somebody, they attack back, they see that I win. But there is no one winning actually. Everybody is losing. So this kind of character is the one character that I'm introducing because this character, the system intelligence, the interconnectedness, the oneness of being, is not a common concept in the leadership or in the management. So everybody thinks that it's a win-lose situation all the time. So that's my answer.
Excellent. Thank you, Mita. Donald, do you have any questions about the book?
Yes, maybe can you give us some examples, preferably in history, maybe of some leaders who meet this criteria, the good criteria.
Good question, Donald. In this book, I think we've known Mother Teresa is the one I used in the beginning because I wanted to start the book by the highest standard of excellence. Mother Teresa is the most spiritual leader or the best servant leader that I can think of. Because the story that I quoted was about she was in a zone of conflict, a war zone. And what she does, she just works helping people, but she paused and she prays. And then after praying, she works again, very busy, and then she stops again and she pauses and she prays again. So praying is also a pause, like breathing, meditation, you name it, or sleeping or praying. Pause is important as a leader. So that's one. And also in the conclusion part, actually the advice that is the best for us to become a conscious leader is be the change you want to see in people or in the world. So if you want people to be honest, be an honest person. If you want the world to be happy people, be a happy people. If you want the world to stop the war, don't start the war. Things as simple as that. So it's Mahatma Gandhi is another example. But for business, which is interesting, is I found out the company L'Oreal is actually belongs to the wealthiest woman business person, yep, businesswoman, which is Francois Bettencourt Meyer. What I love about her, she is the wealthiest woman in the world, because she inherited the money from the founder of L'Oreal. Her grandfather was the guy who founded the waterproof mascara. I did not know that for the first time because I started using that mascara, the waterproof mascara with the brand Maybelline when I was studying in the States during the 1990s. And actually, Maybelline was the American brand for L'Oreal. They came into US and they changed the brand from L'Oreal to Maybelline. And since that was the first waterproof mascara, and I'm still using it because it's the best one. So it's interesting. From a mascara, you can be the richest woman in the world. And the interesting thing about the Françoise Bettencourt Meyer is that she's a Christian Catholic, but her husband is a Jewish. And François Bettencourt Meyer's grandfather was like a part of Nazi who murdered all the Jewish people. But François converted from Catholic to become Jewish so they could marry. So she was the one who decided to sacrifice her belief, which is dominant in France, Catholic, to become a good wife. And her major was in comparative religion, and she has written a lot of books in spirituality, in the comparative religions, and that's her job, an author in comparative religion. So it's interesting. And the best thing about how she manages the business, I thought she became the richest because just the inheritance. No. When her mother inherited the money to her, they were losing money because her mother spent the money for her friend, for partying, for buying luxurious things, just like that, because the mother was lonely. But Francois used the money for paying the renovation of the church that was burned down in Paris. What is that called? The Notre Dame. Yeah, the Notre Dame church was burned down, and she donated 20% of all revenues. So like she made 100 billion euro, and 20% goes to that renovations of the Notre Dame church. So I think she's a conscious leader. She is not stingy. She knows she has to do 20% charity, which is normal. And she knows that donation should go to a church, which is her belief and faith. And it's also a masterpiece of France, Notre Dame Church. So it's very important for the country. So she really knows what's her doing. And she also hires her husband and her sons to become the board of the directors, and the company's revenue go up, yeah, the highest after the money being inherited to her. So she's also a good boss to the business. So I think and she's a woman, the wealthiest woman in the world. And I love L'Oreal product because when I joined the Francophone week in Institut Français, they gave us the goodie bags with like 100 products for free. See, and I'm so happy, and for both male and female, and I gave the male products for my son. And my son is happy. So I think, and recently L'Oreal Indonesia just created a program to recruit women who took 2 years off at least from work to become mothers, full-time mothers, to go back to work. And they are looking for women who has taken a break for 2 years at least, and they train them again, they welcome them again. They don't want women who are full-time jobs, they want somebody who just took a break for years, and they want to help this woman to go back to work again. So everything was slow adjustment. They adjusted to the psychological situation, and they really care about this. And I think this is one example of a conscious company in France. Yeah, I'm sorry I have to use her example because that's what I just found. I don't know about Indonesia yet, yeah. But I know, actually, I know one, but I haven't written. I believe that the Medco energy, although it's in oil, the almarhum Arifin Panigoro, he's also a conscious leader because whenever he opened a rig or in Indonesia or in other countries, he always built hospitals, schools, and the social infrastructure for the people around. So he never neglected the well-being of the people around. Unlike probably we know Freeport, because my mom, when she visited Freeport in Papua, she said the people around were poor, but Freeport is like the kingdom by itself. Everything is luxurious, glamorous, as expensive things, you know. But the people around the Freeport is poor. So Arifin Panigoro was not a leader like that. Whenever he started a rig or he started a project, he built the infrastructures for the people around that project. So but I haven't written that, but I think that's one company that and leader that I want to talk about Indonesia. Back to
Okay.
you, Donald.
Thanks a lot, Mita. Well, we wish you all the best and success with the publishing of the book. It will be in June, right? Yeah.
June
Okay.
8th, please come. Mbak Imung is going to play, what do you call that, Mbak? Your musical instrument?
Yeah. Handpan. I'm going to play
Handpan.
handpan with you.
Yeah, Mbak Imung is very good. She has two handpans and it's really, really like indie music, yeah? It's not common like a keyboard or guitar or other instruments, but Mbak Imung has been practicing every single day and she's an
Thank you. Thank
expert.
you. Well, congratulations again to your book. And I think this would wrap up our review today. I'm so sorry. It's supposed to be like, oh, yes. Yeah. Pipit, do you have one or no?
No, I
Okay.
just Googled it just now.
All right. So if you have one, it's not so easy to find anyone who play this instrument here, even though it's so easy to play that. Yeah. So anyway, if no one else is going to say anything, I will. Donald, we give it back to Donald as the founder of this book club. I love book brewers, even though there are only few people, but we are always consistently and persistently uh, exercise our brain and talk about books. Donald.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Imung. Thank you, everyone. So our next meeting will be on June 8th. Will that be fine? So June 8th, second week. So always second week after second Saturday, sorry.
I apologize, that's my book launch party. So I will have to miss it because it's between 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. Yeah. So sorry with the book brewers that this time I have to miss it. Yeah.
Or if is it possible to move it to a day after or a day before?
You mean the week after or the week before?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So 1 and
The
15.
week after.
I cannot do 15, but I can do 1.
Mhm.
1st of
Mhm.
June, I cannot do 15.
Okay.
So June 1st is fine.
I'm
Just-
okay with June 1st. I think that's holiday juga. Oh, well,
Is it?
Saturday. It's Hari Pancasila,
Ah, interesting.
but it's Saturday, so same.
Okay. All
Alright.
right, let's do it then.
See you June 1st then.
Okay. June
Thank you
1st.
so much,
Okay.
everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
Happy.
Thank you, Mbak
See you
Imung.
next month.
Thank you,
Next
Fajar.
weekend.